What's up, everybody? Cody DeQuisto here. Welcome back to the page. We are talking about one of my absolute favorite topics today in all of whitetail hunting. Over the years, I've become sort of known for this style. Today, we're going to talk about hunting low. Flipping away a lot. Our scouting mission got cut short. All right, guys, so this is something that I feel super passionate about. It's something I've personally been preaching for the better part of the last 10 years. It's become a major part of my specific style and my success in whitetail hunting is this tactic. And I feel very passionately about it, and I try and help hunters and share the theories and the thought behind this, you know, at my shows every year and wherever anybody will listen. So I'm not really sure where all the theories started about hunting height and why getting so high in a tree is always been really the norm and sort of like the only way to do it, right? Whether this is companies trying to sell you more gear to get higher, or whether it was the general principle of just being further away from the deer makes you more invincible. Like, I don't know where they came from, but I remember as a young hunter, I used to hunt very high. I'd always be 4 or 5 sticks high. I fell into this trap early on that like I would identify a feature in a tree and then I would have to climb to get to it. And usually those were always high. And I wanted to stay out of like the general sight picture of the deer, right? The more removed I could get from the deer, the safer I would be, which is a very logical way of thinking. And it works. Don't get me wrong. Like there's nothing wrong with getting 25 feet up in a tree. Well, there is some things wrong with it, and I'll go over those later in the video. One of the biggest reasons I made the switch and started experimenting with a different style was, for one, due to efficiency. I was scouting a lot. I always had a full setup on my back. It was a lot of bullshit to deal with when I'd find my spots, and because I move a lot, it took me so long or not so long, but a lot longer to set up these setups to get higher in the tree. So efficiency played a big role in me just ditching half the gear. Another thing, probably more importantly, was I was trying to get more of a rush back in whitetail hunting. I've always been sort of an out-of-the-box thinker, which I believe is a strong suit in whitetail hunting in this regard. And I remember I found this really hot spot and there was no trees around. And well, there was a kind of like a honeysuckle bush. And I remember thinking to myself, like, could I hunt that thing? Like, could I get in there and I was like, fuck it, I'll try it. So I remember just like, it was a nightmare to get in this thing, but I somehow strapped the stand to this bush and I just sat there and I had a crazy close encounter with a small buck in that bush. And I remember at that time, like it flashed a light bulb in my head for one, and it was the biggest rush I've had in a long time in the woods. I mean, just to paint a picture for you, this bush was feet off of this trail, and it was the only cover in the area. And I'm a stand hunter. I had a stand on my back. I'm like, I got to try and hang a stand in this bush. Like, something always felt wrong to me about being on the ground. Like, I felt vulnerable. And anyway, so I got covered up. I got real covered in, and this trail was just feet away. And it felt like I could reach out and touch the deer. And I got a little spooky, and he could sense something was up, and he got spooky after he came through. But I just remember that experience lit a fire under me. And that was the second reason then, was to ignite that sort of fire and feeling back into my whitetail hunting. So for a couple sits, I ditched half my gear and I was running around with just like one stick, and I was just experimenting, right? And I was, okay, well, how can I get low? And I had a couple really successful hunts like this. And as the season went on, I ended up having a just insane encounter with a mega giant. Didn't shoot that one. Ended up shooting a really good 170-inch buck from like 6 feet off the ground. And I was just like jacked, right? And from then on, I was hooked. That season, I ditched 2 of my climbing sticks and have never put 4 sticks on my back since. My setup consists of, 2 compact sticks with some aiders on them, and sometimes I don't use both sticks. Sometimes I gotta stretch them out to get a little higher, but my general theory is I will make something work with those 2 sticks. And actually my process for finding a tree and picking the kill tree, which I'm working on a series of videos for you guys right now, one of the first and main steps in that process is solely based off of my mission off the bat is to be as low as possible, right? So I'm analyzing all the trees and I'm like, okay, which one can I get as low as I possibly can in? Like, and that's one of my criteria now for picking my kill trees and my ambush trees. So I went full force, man, and the hunts that I've had and the experiences that I've had being that up close and personal, like there is nothing more rewarding than killing a buck at 5 yards, 6 feet off the ground. Like, I mean, you can smell their breath. Like, it's just crazy, man, and it's a rush. And I encourage you guys to try it. And like anything, man, I put what I'm doing through the paces, and I develop a system. I'm a very systematic person. I have an approach to things, and there's a lot of things that I had to fine tune about this hunting low system that, took some trial and error. But like anything, right? But I remember when I started kind of preaching this concept and trying to bring people into the fold and giving advices for people to lighten up their pack load and for them to try things. And I remember just being overwhelmingly met with negativity, oh well, yeah, that doesn't work on deer out here, or that won't work here, or it won't work there, and you only got lucky. And from then on, I sort of made it my mission to only do that, and to not only do that, but try it in different areas, educate different people, and breed success in this style of hunting all over the country. And man, this is even people close to me, good buddies. Oh, well, you'll never get away with doing that out in Pennsylvania. It'll never work out here. Oh, you can't do that in the Southeast. Oh, that'll never work in Georgia. Well, I got news for you. It does. It works wherever you are, regardless of the whitetail you're hunting, regardless of the pressure that whitetail is under. There's people that I've helped get into this style of hunting out east, down south, in the most pressured pieces to the most remote pieces, that are all having major success with hunting low. And they didn't think they could, they didn't think it would work. It just takes being a little more calculated. One of my favorite arguments by far was being out east and hearing the guys out there, when I was talking about my setup and hunting low, hunting 6-7 feet off the ground, and they immediately, don't even entertain the thought of it. They immediately in their heads, that doesn't work out here. Not in PA, you'll never get it done. These deer are conditioned to look up. They're so pressured, they're so keyed in. And I would say to them, well, if the deer are so pressured and so keyed at looking up, why would you want to be up there where they're looking, right? That doesn't make much sense, does it? Why wouldn't you want to get out of their line of sight where they're conditioned to look? And then my follow-up question to all these guys would be, well, have you ever tried it? And they're like, well, either it's a overwhelmingly no, or yeah, it doesn't, or yeah, I've tried it, it doesn't work. Well, how many times have you tried it? Did you try it once and you got busted? Well, how many times have you got busted hunting 30 feet up in a tree? A lot, right? So this is really a conversation of committing to a way and giving something a fair shot too. So with all that being said, right, I've developed a theory over the years of why this is so successful and why I think you are more stealthy being lower in the tree. Now, don't get me wrong. If you want to be 35 feet up in a tree, 35, 40 yards away from the deer, there's no doubt about that. You're going to be in a pretty safe spot. You're very far away from them. You're very high in a tree. You're creating so much separation and distance from the deer that it is a successful way to hunt. And I think that's probably why a lot of people do it that way. It is not as efficient, I don't think. And if you're not run and gun hunting and you're not into being ultra mobile and efficient, and you got permanent sets and they can be hunted that way. There's nothing wrong with hunting that way. But I'll tell you what, man, that doesn't do anything for me. Being light years up in a tree and that far away from a deer, like being out of the zone, far shots, that just isn't for me. It never has been. It doesn't do a thing for me. Like for me to kill a deer in open country at 50, 60 yards, like way up in a tree, like they might as well be 150 yards away, and I might as well shoot them with a gun or something. Like I just, it doesn't fire me up like close quarter hunting does. And a lot of times, a lot of the areas that I hunt are very thick and very dense, and you can't get away with that anyway. So, you know, like for you to hang a stand 30 feet up in a tree or 20 feet up in a tree in some of the dense timber that I hunt or the thicker scenarios, like good luck trimming a lane. Like you just can't do it. And it would really go to the other end of the spectrum on as far as efficiency goes. So let's talk a little bit about my specific theory on why hunting low can be so lethal and stealthy. So many years ago, I've honed into something. It's a personal theory. I like to call it the dead zone. And what I refer to the dead zone is a spot in a tree that is just above any foliage that's growing on the ground and just below the canopy of the trees well in the background. Now, this will change based off of where you are. If you're high on a ridge, if you're low in a bottom, this is always changing, right? But there's always a zone. There's a definitive lined zone that you can draw in this area, right? And this is your best area to hunt. Now, I believe in hunting as low as possible. And a lot of times, this zone just ends up in that like 6 to 10 feet, like if that. Sometimes lower, sometimes you can get away with being higher, but you don't need to be higher. And deeper into what this dead zone is I believe that deer are conditioned to look and be on higher alert for danger in certain areas, right? This comes back to the East Coast guy, you know, saying how the deer look up, man, so he can't be up there. Well, they know to be on lookout for predators that high. And generally speaking, deer are avoiding predators at all times, right? Whether you want to call them pressured deer or not, they are still trying to survive. There are predators in every scenario for these whitetail, right? And they're walking on the ground. They have an immediate attention to the ground level, right? There's predators that attack them. There's danger on the ground. There's no question about that, right? And then we've just discussed that there's danger up in the trees. And usually it's coming from high in the trees. These are two direct focal points that I believe deer pay attention to, right? Up high and up low. So this dead zone I'm referring to is in the middle. It's in the sweet spot. It's almost directly in their line of sight. Really, the area that everybody is fearful of getting in because it's in their line. And rightfully so. Like it can be tricky. You know, when I think about this theory and I think about, you know, where deer associate danger from and where their natural predators are and where they've been accustomed to detect for danger. And, you know, I posed the question of how long do you think it takes for a herd to adapt and there to be a permanent shift in behavior? Like this is just something interesting to think about that I've thought about a lot in the past. And I don't think it takes that long. Not at all. So, you know, to further dive into this question, like let's take it on a predatory basis, right? So if you introduced a new predator into a whitetail's environment, how long would it take them to understand that new predator and to be on the lookout for it, right? So it's going to happen pretty quick, but how long does it take for it to infiltrate its way into the herd and for it to be a taught measure? I think it's probably a few years. Like it can't be any further than that, which is completely incredible if you think about it, right? And what makes me think about it that way is I think about things like these people who use big feeders, right? Or these big enclosed ground blinds, which I don't do. It's just not what I'm about. But so think about introducing a feeder, right? You take this feeder and you put it into the middle of a field. At first, the deer are going to be a little sketched out. They're not going to know what it is. They're not going to understand it. They're probably going to even be a little scared of it, right? Well, as they become more comfortable with it and conditioned to it being there, well, then they're going to start to investigate it. Then they're going to find out it actually feeds them. And then before long, they're coming into that thing like they don't have a care in the world. They don't associate it with danger at all, right? And now that's just the deer that's within a season, right? Like let's say within a season that happens, especially when it gets cold and they start to rely on that and they know it's easy food. That happens pretty quickly. Well, then you have the young deer that are coming to that. You have the old deer. You have the entire herd, right? They understand this. The next year, the fawns are born. There is zero adjustment that a fawn has to go through for this feeder, right? From little on, they will grow up being fed by this feeder and it being, just normal to them, right? So you expand that to 3 to 5 years. Before you know it, you have an entire herd of deer that are inhabiting your property that have never known anything different than this feeder. And one day you hop in that feeder or you stand on top of that feeder real still with a shotgun, you could probably shoot anything you wanted come into that feeder, right? So I'm saying this in a reference to get you thinking of like how quickly the shift can happen, right? So what I think we've seen over the years, over the past 20, 30 years, is deer have become conditioned to look for tree stand hunters high in the tree, right? I don't think we can doubt that. I don't think we can argue that. And we can't argue, like they're looking for danger anywhere, right? Like if they, and this is a pressure thing too, like this is a whole nother rabbit hole conversation, but the theory that there are like less pressured deer that somehow care less about things is completely bullshit. Like I don't care where you are, like a deer who is less pressured, right? Let's say never even hunted, is not gonna see you up in a tree or see you in a tree or see you on the ground and just think, oh, fuck it, let me just walk over here. Like that doesn't happen, right? They have instinct, right? And anyway, that's another conversation. But so now you have these conditioned behaviors of where deer are looking for predators, right? So I believe you can ambush them in almost plain sight. So one of the biggest reasons I like to stick to this dead zone, and I like to avoid hunting high as much as humanly possible, actually at all times. And I stay away from the height, and I will die on this sword, right? I will take this to the grave. You cannot convince me otherwise. And if you know enough about whitetail hunting, you're going to agree with me. One of the most fundamental, important aspects that you must understand when hunting or getting close to deer or becoming more efficient, right up there in line with scent. And like I mentioned in the previous videos, how you can't beat their nose, right? So you need to, like it is so important that you understand wind and you understand where your scent goes, is movement, right? Movement is how they are seeing us. Whitetail are just as much watchers as they are smellers. And they have fucking eyes, man. Like they will spot you and they spot movement so extremely well. And this is another reason why I spend so much time and thought process into my setups, because I believe minimal movement equals most success, right? So look, I'm bringing it back, coming all the way back to why I keep from being high in the tree. So when you reach that point in a tree, right? When you're at the height to where we call this the skyline, right? When you are skylit, which means there is actual sky behind you and not timber, that is the danger zone. And what that does is it amplifies your movement. And a lot of people don't think of it in this depth or to this layer, but when the sky is behind you and you move, there is now a change in light behind you. And I believe that change in light is extremely alerting to a whitetail. Now, if you're way lower in the tree and you have such dense forest behind you or you have cover in your immediate vicinity, if you make the slightest movement, it's not as amplified, right? And when I'm talking about movement, guys, like if you are in the open or if you are skylit and you have a deer within 15 yards or you have a deer that's looking in that general direction, I'm not talking a big movement like grabbing your bow, which is like, that's crazy, right? I'm talking the slightest sway in your body. You move like this and it changes the light that's coming in through the trees behind you. Like if you all of a sudden now open up more light to come and pass through, that right there is a trigger for the deer, and they see that, and they look right up at it, and they identify that. And if they pin you up there, you're done. And when you're down lower in this dead zone, you don't get that, right? That's one of the main procedures in finding the dead zone is specifically is being below that point, right? So you cannot be silhouetted. So this comes down to the play of cover. Now, if you're high in a tree and there's exceptional cover up there, you can eliminate that factor. So that is possible. But when you're low, it's like everywhere. Or in some people that can conceptualize hunting low, they're like, oh yeah, you get in a really heavy cover tree, and yes, that works great. Like if you can find the cover low, like it's better, it's double better. But it doesn't always have to be direct cover, right? I call this indirect cover. And that's everything behind you, like what we're talking about. So the tree you're sitting in doesn't need to be completely, filled with limbs and bushy and have that direct cover. You need to have, it's more important to have that behind you, have that depth of cover to conceal your movement. I mean, I've had awesome hunts that resulted in the craziest close kill shots I can imagine, and I didn't have a stitch of cover in the actual tree I was in. I was just so dead still. I call this hiding in plain sight, and it is totally possible wherever you are. I find it even just crazy is so many people who don't understand the concept, or people who might call out the concept, but we look back to the beginning of time, like people kill deer on the ground all the time, right? So if you can be on the ground, if you can be standing on the ground level and shoot a deer, what is so crazy to think you can't be 5 feet up in a tree point blank? Like, I don't get it, right? So now getting into the scent topic, like this is one of the biggest arguments for people getting higher in the tree, which I do agree with. I believe that, like it is true. When you get high in a tree, especially in a morning, like you get a quicker lift, like you can be very invincible. And some of the times that I need to stretch and get as high as I can with my 2 sticks, or I might need to rethink my game plan, are situations where I'm hunting bottoms and I need to get a quicker thermal pull, so I'm trying to get higher up the tree. Like that 100% is a fact. But there's a lot of advantages that you get on a scent perspective of hunting low as well. And instead of me getting high in that tree, I will just position and find a different area that allows me to play my game with the gear that I have. Because I don't want the increased shot angle. I don't want to get that high. And I'm a firm believer that you can always find another way to make it work. So when we talk about scent, and a lot of people think that, oh, well, the higher you are, your scent just is gone, and it leaves quicker, and well, that's not always true, right? So, and this is part of a way deeper scent conversation and wind and what is happening there. But so generally speaking, this is all going to change based off of morning, evening, heating and cooling of air, so whether you're getting a thermal lift or your thermals are dropping, right? So here's something to think about right off the bat, right? In an evening, when your thermals are falling, if you're hunting 6 feet off the ground, your travel of your scent cone, right? The scent that comes from you that hits the ground is going to be a triangle to that ground based off the wind direction, right? It's not going to be that big of a triangle. If you're 36 feet up in the tree, your triangle is going to increase by so much, right? So you are expanding your scent cone by an exponential amount. And not only that, you got to think about how much it's dissipating and how much it's coming off, right? Before it hits the ground. Now, how long it stays there on the ground before it starts to dissipate or gets pulled somewhere else there's a bunch of other factors that are adding into that too. But it's less travel, right? So you get less disbursement of that scent cone. And in the evening, this can really help you if you're playing to features. So if you're playing to like land features, right? So if you're hunting over a draw and anticipating that thermal pull, you can be sitting right above it and getting that right down, and all your scent is leaving without kind of dispersing before it hits that draw, right? I would rather contaminate less of an area than more of an area. In the morning, you do have an advantage being higher, because the closer you are to the sun, the closer you are to where that air is going to be warmed, the quicker it's going to lift up, right? But where I navigate that is in the morning, I will switch and adjust my spots to where I am getting sun exposure quicker than others. So, and let's just think of some of the benefits of this, right? So you get the heightened experience. You get the ultra efficiency. You can be up and down a tree in the matter of minutes. You get way better shot angles. Now, make no mistake about it, like this does come with its challenges, like along with all the benefits, and there are challenges to it. And there are some people that this just isn't for, right? This is a stealth game. Like when you are hunting that low and you are set up very close, like it requires being very stealthy, being very cautious about your movement, and it requires your setups to be a little bit more dialed than typical. Like you can't find an area and just be like, oh, this looks good, let me just toss the stand up here, and have no recollection of what your shot is gonna be, where the deer's coming from. Like, guys, a lot of my hunting, I'm hunting singular trails, right? Singular scrapes, one solitary point of interest most of the time, typically in the timber, right? So there's not a big, like for me to have to stand up and turn around and shoot something, or constantly be swinging my head around to keep an eye on things, is like, that's a no-no for me. I won't even set in places that have me doing things like that. Like I'm more very focused. My main goal is to be able to kill anything that comes to one area. And if I can own that and that's my game, that has equaled me way more success than when I tried to be greedy. Like I tell this story a lot, and a big definitive moment in my hunting career, if you will, or just my years doing it, where I seen my success rate go from like good to insane, was when I honed everything in, and I stopped being greedy. I would find a spot. My immediate course of action would be, okay, where can I get or where does my stand have to be to where I can get everything, to where I can shoot every single trail in this area, right? If there was a trail at 15 yards there, 20 yards here, 6 yards here, I needed to hit them all. Like if I could, like that's where my tree needed to be, was the spot that allowed me to shoot every single trail, and nothing could get by there without me killing it. And I mean, it does work sometimes, but when I went from that to, okay, let me analyze this area a little bit better. Let me make a more educated decision on what I think the best trail out of these 7 are, and let me play my game to where anything that comes down that one trail is dead. Like there is no getting by me on this one trail. Like when I started looking at it like that, I started killing more deer more consistently. And what this did was it allowed me to be more stealthy, more calculated. And if something happened and I missed the opportunity, I picked the wrong trail, then so what? So you adjust. You adjust then and hit the right trail the next day. And if he doesn't come back, he doesn't come back. Then you move on. That's just how it needs to be. Don't get too hung up in everything. If you're somebody who is fidgety, who moves around a lot, who can't really stay that still, like this is not probably a very good route for you to take, right? You might have to continue to hunt a little further away from the kill and in denser cover. Now, I would still advocate that you don't get too high, because getting higher up can actually amplify that movement. But if you need to get a little further away, right, and start to analyze your setups, like be real about your intent. All right, guys, let me know what you think. Again, this is not the way, it's just a way. It's my way. And I encourage you guys to try it, man. I speak with people every year who attend my events and have had some of the most memorable hunts they've ever had and killed some of the biggest deer they have on the wall. So it's really cool to hear that, but let me know what you guys think. As I mentioned before, I got a series of videos coming for all you guys who want to know more about my specific process in finding this kill tree, right? In this dead zone, within all that. That's coming very soon. Once again, guys, thanks for coming by. We appreciate the support on the channel. Like and subscribe to the page, and until next time, shoot straight.